So welcome guys to Project Freebie, which I'm in the process of converting to a 2-litre 16 valve. Now for you guys that are new to the channel, first time watching, this is a real crazy engine. It's a 1.9D block, engine code 1Y, has an ABF crank, has SCAT ABF rods, has Woosner ABF High Comp pistons, has an ABF head, port and polished by myself. It has Schrick 268 cams, a Kent vernier pulley, also has a Schrick baffled aluminium and cool louvered sump, an 8-valve non-AC alternator, has an O2S gearbox, hybrids with a different bell housing and a few other bits and pieces, 100mm shafts, anything else, and a Quaife LSD. It's a 6-speed gearbox with the first 5 gears shorter than the original ABF gearbox, and then 6 slightly taller. It's running a Group N VW 4x2 equal length exhaust manifolds, and then I've made and adapted the downpipe with longer secondaries. Due to it being a 1.9 block, it doesn't have a crank sensor, so I'm using an old KR distributor. GTD airbox. What else can I say about this hybrid? Standard fuel system, apart from it's running a 4-bar MAC pressure, it's running a 4-bar fuel pressure regulator, and it's running the Mark III fuel lines with a filter underneath and a tank. And I've done loads of videos on that as well, how to do that, as well as also got a Walbro pump in there for good measure. Also, due to it having the diesel block, which they use actually M12 head studs, or bolts, sorry, I've had to drill the head out to accept M12s over the M11s. I've also had to adapt some special head bolts. I had to get some diesel 1.9 PD head bolts, which were longer. I had to get the machine down so they fit perfectly and tighten up on that. And what else? Ooh, lots of little bits and pieces. It's a whole mishmash of parts on this thing. It's quite crazy. But let's get actually into what today's video is going to be. So in the last video, if you guys haven't seen that, I actually go into a bit of depth with wiring this all up, doing all the checks pre-start to make sure there's no issues with the ECU. I'm not going to burn the ECU out. The ECU out is actually a K-Data from a German company. It's basically a mega squirt in an OEM case with an OEM plug and play setup. Again, I've had to reinvent this because I've only had, I think it was an 8-valve loom or a 1.6 GT loom. So I've had to adapt it and take off and move a few wires around, as well as I've kind of made a really nice kind of plug and play into the fuse box. So it's all reversible, also with the Mark IV shifter and a hydraulic clutch and the pedal box off the B3 Passat. So yeah, it's got loads of little bits. There's loads of info on the channel. Check the playlists out. There's loads of stuff in it. But anyway, getting back on today. So in the last video, I got this running. And obviously, because it's got no coolant in it, that was only to get it running, checked. Now, I need to get the baseline ignition done and kind of get the baseline fueling and check if the idle valve works and all the rest of that. But to do that, I need coolant in the car. So today's project is adapting some coolant lines. Actually going into that, also I've actually changed the circuit slightly on this ABF to see if I can improve the cooling or equal the head temperatures across the heads by putting, instead of this going to the heater inside, it comes out onto an auxiliary pump, which then goes down to where this one from the top radiator hose would have gone, and the top radiator hose takeoff. Now that goes round into the heater. So my main goal is so that cylinder 3 and 4 gets more flow across the head, due to this actually coming through here and getting pumped instead of having to go actually up against gravity into the radiator and out, because obviously water's always going to take the path of least resistance, and where this flange is basically sits between, you know, kind of 2 and 3, but the flow is going to kind of go from the pump up around here and then the majority of it come out there. And this back bit of the head, you know, whenever I've had a problem or I've seen problems on these 16 valves where they've pinked and they've, you know, blown a hole in the piston or damaged something, it's always either 3 or 4. Rarely it seems to be 1 and 2. So that kind of has always led me to believe that this side of the head always runs a bit warmer than that side. So it's more prone to debt on that side of the head. So I'm hoping, you know, I put some thought into it. Hopefully it'll work quite well. All right, let me stop waffling and let me actually start doing some work. Found these in my box of pipes with this little heat shield bit, which is going to be, normally you would have like a long one that went from there back, and then you got the shorter one which would be one of these, but I'm going to be using 2 of these and then a slight adapter that goes onto the pipe that goes around their head there. So that's what I'm going to be using. So it's going quite well. So now the next thing to do is put the radiator on and work out my top hose and bottom radiator hose. So I've got the front panel on, I've already put the headlights on, and I've also repurposed this. I got this from a 3.5 convertible. I had it laying around there for a while. I really dislike the Mark II radiators. You can kind of see them on, especially if they're not new ones or they're these aluminium ones. They kind of look really quite, not very neat. So I think this actually neatens it up really, really well actually. All I did was put a self-tapper screw through there, and the other one is just kind of underneath here, and it kind of goes through the metal, the fan cowling, screws into there, and it holds it in place, and then it's kind of wedged in between the slam panel and the radiator, and it's perfect. I mean, it looks really quite OEM, looks quite cool. Okay, so that's done. Also, I was looking through my stock, and this car never had the kind of the partitions or dividers or air streamers, whatever you want to call them. So I had these on the shelf. They're a little bit different to what I'm used to seeing. They kind of normally end there. This one kind of goes off behind the headlight, which is pretty cool. The other side, the left side one, does the same thing, but because I have the housing for the little thing that goes on there, the kind of the cover, which I've actually sourced, and it's coming from eBay. That might be here in a few weeks, but I've got the little cover that goes on there. This one, as you see, is gonna kind of, yeah, get in the way, unless this was originally maybe for a smaller radiator and it would have sat maybe something like that, I think. But yeah, I'm gonna probably have to trim this one, unfortunately, so that I can actually get it on. I got both sides done. So I got the front end on finally. I'm not gonna tell you how long it took, but that's taken ages to actually get the front panel on with the grille straight, the bumper as well to get that on, and straighten up the bottom lip as well. So it looks a little bit more presentable. I've also straightened up this wing, even though I'm gonna change it, but still, so that it fits there, because it was kind of quite far away. This one as well, I had to kind of, it was all dented in, so I've straightened it all out. And in the end, actually, I'm quite happy with the time. I'm not happy with the time it took, but I'm happy with the result. What else can you say about that? Also changed, also replaced very crusty looking, very old, 30-year-old for the screen wash jets, and put some fresh one on there. That always is a nice touch. So kind of done here in the engine bay for what I want to do, apart from the airbox, which I need to sort out, kind of a breather for the idle valve. And here on the bench, I've got another lid. So I actually do have a few of these GTD boxes. And what I've done is I had a breather pipe laying around, had a pipe, chopped it off, giving it that shape as well so it fits. It doesn't kind of interrupt the airflow going into the engine. And it's a really nice fit as well. As you can see, it fits really tight fit, and it's about there it needs to be. But let's go and double check it actually on the engine bay. So quickly remove this. Just fits into there like so. Okay, cool. So that's actually long enough. I'll show you guys. There you go, you can see what it looks like. It fits into about there, which is fine. It's a bit bigger here at this, but then it actually shrinks down. Actually, it is tight in there, so that's perfect. So yeah, then I'm just gonna plastic weld it on the inside and then put some silicone sealer or some kind of bonding glue, black one on there, so it looks quite neat. So plastic welded both sides, and now it's just a matter of, here we go, and that looks nice and OEM. So this pretty much covers now the front end and the engine bay. That's all done with the airbox and stuff finished. Now, next what we're going to be doing is we're removing the old exhaust system and making up the rest of the exhaust system, the back box and the rest of the system. That's going to take a long time, I know it is, especially doing it on the floor. It's not a lot of fun on the floor. But yeah, it's looking really, really nice. I'm really happy. I can't overstate how much of a difference and how much nicer this little bit of trim here from the 3.5 makes. And also with the help of Pedro, who's local, he was actually gave me a hand to actually put the bonnet on, so the bonnet's done as well. So yeah, I can literally not focus on this now until I got the exhaust done, and then we can come back in the engine bay, bleed the system, get the car running and adjust the idle and adjust the map and start driving this hopefully. But before we get to that point, like I said, I'm gonna have to do the exhaust system, which I'm not looking forward to. So let's jack this up and let's remove the old one and make the new one. So I'm only going to show you guys very roughly because obviously my welding is legendarily bad. But yep, so you can see the 3 boxes. Down there I've got 2, so down there I've got 2 resonators. And here's the back box. So I've made a join here just before the rear beam. Look, there's my anti-roll bar, my IVAC anti-roll bar, stealth black. And then I've made another join just there after the last resonator box. So it's 3 sections. You've got the front section, which is 2 boxes. Then you've got this pipe, which kind of S's round and goes over the rear beam. And then it connects onto the back box. It's all 2.5 inch, which is 63 mil. And it's all mandrel bends as well. So it's all done. And what I've done is, I've actually, as you can see, this box is quite a small one. The reason why I've done that is so that if the sound isn't how I want it and it's a bit too loud, I've then got the option to go larger. Like I can flip this hook around and I can put a larger volume, as well as I've got a bit of space at the back. I can put a larger volume back box if I need to. So this is why it's got this very odd tailpipe. It's very OEM looking or just discreet looking tailpipe. It isn't going to be the final tailpipe. Once I am happy with the sound and if I'm happy with the way it is, like I said, then I'll make something that imitates the original one with 2 going off to the side. But for the time being, until I'm absolutely sure, I don't want to mess around with tailpipes at the moment. That will do. So let's drop this on the floor. And there's a few issues that I've noticed so we can get this running. But also, once on the floor, we're going to do the shake tests and we can tell if it's going to hit the rear beam or not. So now, moment of truth. If I shake this, will it actually hit the rear beam? Nope. Side to side, nothing. Down as well. Yes, happy with that. So that's not going to be knocking. That's really cool. All right. So now to actually check the exhaust. But what I have noticed before I'm going to get the car running, that when I first had it running, it seemed quite rough. And I've actually checked the plugs, and 2 of the plugs are wet, and 2 of the plugs are sooty. So 1 and 2 are sooty, and 3 and 4 are wet. So I need to be careful. I can't run the car too many times like this because obviously it's a brand new block, rings and everything. I don't want to bore wash and score the block or have any issues. So I'm very limited on the time I'm going to be running it. So I want to sort that out first. So it might be, I need to check the settings here for, let me see, engine thing. I need to double check all these things here like alternating, port injection, so I might need to change that. That might be the issue, but also let me check more importantly the my ignition settings. So, okay, so I've got basic trigger, 51, so that might be an issue there. Let me change that to actually 60. I think it might be a better number. The rest of it's fine. Rising edge. Yep. So maybe that might be the issue there. Okay, so I've burnt that to the ECU. So let me just crank it up and see what's what. Okay, so I've tested it and it's still doing the same. These two plugs are wet, these two plugs are sooty. And there's a reason I know for that, generally because of the fueling, because of the cam and stuff. But I'll get more into that probably in the next video, more into detail of the Mega Squirt and the mapping situation and what certain things do hardware-wise to the map changes. So what I've done is I've actually checked the cap, make sure it's fine, and I took the distributor off. And the reason why I've done that, let me show you on the bench. Now this is the one that was on the car. I can't remember where I got it from. It looks the same. I thought to myself, yep, it's a KR1. It's got the 4 windows on it, as you guys can see, hopefully. There, the 4 windows. And I was like, well, that's gonna run. Then something made me check this, put the engine back at TDC to see why is the mark there, but yet it's still where it should be. So, you know, the firing order was right on the distributor, which is anti-clockwise on this one. And the leads were fine, everything was fine. But something made me check, let me just double check this. Very luckily, Nelson Silver, actually a week and a half ago, gave me a box of bits that he didn't want. And inside that box was actually a KR distributor, an original one. So what I have to do is I've checked them, and side by side, can you guys tell what the difference is? Here is where the sensor is. On the KR one, it's 180 degrees in a different position. So the firing order, the engine was running backwards. So it was totally, so no way was it gonna run. You know, potentially maybe even the windows might be in a different. So I'm hoping this is gonna sort the issue out. Let's go fit this on. So I'm really hoping, I think this is more than likely gonna be 90%, this is gonna be the issue. So I don't think the exhaust sounds too bad actually. I'm quite happy with the tone. All right, so next thing we need to do is go back to the Mega Squirt and change some of the scaling, because I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It is all wrong here. So if we look at the fuel table, which is this one, so it goes up to 7.5, which is fine. But as you can see, it goes from 20 all the way to 250. So that's boost basically. We're going to be running at 100. So I need to get rid of those two. And the reason why for that, it just gives me more resolution then on the fuel map, if that makes sense, as well as also, because I have the cams, and I will show you at one point, the car, the way they've mapped the car, you can see it would have sat idle potentially around here, in these kind of boxes here. But because I've got the cams, it's not as efficient with the overlap. You're not going to have the same kind of vacuum pull. So there's no point me having 20, 25, 30. So I'm going to stretch out the resolution and do that. And also the ignition map, very odd numbers, 700 to 6,000, which we're going to go way past that. The cut's going to be at 7.5. And again, you can see it goes from 20 all the way to 250, which we're going to lose the top half of that. I'm going to rescale it. So again, it gives me more resolution. As you can see, the original car on this map would have sat there, which is about right between 30 and 40, but we're going to sit actually between probably 40 and 50 and 40, kind of up here. So there's no point me having this lower thing, and in doing so, it gives me more resolution on the map. So it's better to map. So let's go ahead and do that.